And welcome to Kettle and Bones, where we make really delicious, really healthy food. And you can too. Today we're continuing our Whole Pork Loin mini-series, wherein we're taking this big, beautiful pork loin and breaking it down into smaller cuts that we can use in a variety of delicious ways. In part 1, we took the sirloin end and made it into thick, tender, juicy pork chops. Today we'll be using the other end of the loin, the shoulder or blade end, to make a fantastically rich and flavorful Asian-inspired entree. We're making hot and sour country ribs. Let's get cooking. Hello there, old friend. We missed you while you were in the freezer. Just chillin'. Well, today is your day. Country ribs are called ribs not because they come from the rib area of the pig, they don't. They come from just by the shoulder blade. It's just that they have a similar flavor and fat marbling to rib meat. All we have to do to turn this roast into country ribs is cut them like this. If you buy a package of country ribs in the store, you may see them with cross-sections of bone in them as well. That's the shoulder blade or scapula. Ours, coming from the loin as they do, are already nicely boneless. If you do much searching for country ribs recipes, you will find, as you might expect, that most of them are decidedly barbecue-y. A lot of sugar, maple syrup, brown sugar, molasses, the usual ultra-high sugar suspects. Obviously, we're not going to do that. But I really wanted to do an Asian seasoning on these, something with classic Oriental flavors, but without adding tons of sugar. So rather than attempting to make something sweet like a teriyaki or a hoisin sauce in a low-sugar version, we're going hot and we're going sour, with many other subtle undertones to round the flavors out. We're going to begin by making a flavorful paste to rub on our pork. Into a small food processor goes a lot of garlic, quite a bit of raw ginger, just a sploosh of sesame oil, about a glug of soy sauce, and some chili paste. Now this is not our zesty chili paste that we made in Season 1, Episode 8. That chili paste is full of delicious, smoky Mexican and Central and South American flavors. Today, I want an Asian chili paste. This is Gochujang paste, a Korean fermented chili paste with wonderfully complex flavors. It is made using soybeans and rice, I'll tell you that right up front, so it does add some carbohydrates from those. If you use it sparingly, it's not going to spike your blood sugar or torpedo your carb count for the whole day. The amount I'm using here adds about 10 grams of carbs to the entire dish, which should give us 6 to 8 servings at least. So if this is not a deal breaker for you, I love the flavor of gochujang paste for this. But if you need to use a different Asian chili paste or even an Asian chili powder, go ahead and use that. Lid goes on, and let's blend, pausing occasionally to scrape down the sides. We want a very smooth paste that's going to consistently coat our pieces of pork. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. Into a large mixing bowl go our country ribs and our bold, flavorful paste. By the way, this, like every dish we've ever made together, should be seasoned to taste. Add more garlic, more ginger, more chili, depending on how you want it. Don't worry about adding too much more soy sauce at this point, though. We're going to have opportunities to adjust the saltiness levels later toward the end. When each piece of meat is nicely coated, we can start cooking. These country ribs do have more fat than our sirloin chops did, but they also have some sizable lean meat chunks too, and given their thickness, I think we're going to get the best, most tender results by cooking them low and slow. We'll be braising these for several hours in a slow cooker. Start with a little drizzle of oil, then place the pork into the bottom of the cooker as evenly as you can. And next we're going to assemble together the building blocks of our braising liquid. I'm slicing half of a medium onion relatively thinly. I'm going to add some stalks of baby bok choy. If you don't have this, a celery stalk could be substituted here. These are kind of dirty. Let's quickly rinse these first. That's better. Now I'm shredding some daikon radish, and about half of a medium carrot. And now we'll be adding the sour component of our hot sour sauce, a splash of rice vinegar, and the juice of 2 medium limes. 2 limes is a good baseline to start with, and we will have more chances to adjust the flavors as needed as we go. Now a generous splash of dry white wine. I'm using Pinot Grigio. A Sauvignon Blanc would also work well here. A sweeter wine would certainly work as well, flavor-wise, but since we're trying to avoid adding additional sugars, stick to something dry. Finally, I'm adding 1 can of coconut milk. A good, no sugar added coconut milk is available at most grocery stores, international markets especially. Or like everything else in the known universe, you can get it online. I'm going to make sure things are more or less evenly distributed on top. And this is going to cook down and permeate our beautiful country ribs over the next several hours. You can cook this on high heat for 4 hours or low heat for about 7 hours. Honestly, there's not a huge difference for either in the result you'll get. It's more about having the food done at the time you're ready to eat it. I ended up splitting the difference, letting this go on high for about 2 hours and then switching to low for 4 more hours until dinner time. Oh, one more thing. Remember kombu? We served this pan-fried before with our elegant sashimi blossom, Season 1, Episode 18. Today we're going to simply tuck it down into the braising liquid, like you might do with a bay leaf into an Italian sauce, to release some wonderful salty umami flavors. Now just go ahead and do whatever you'd like to do with the rest of your day until dinner time. That's the magic of the slow cooker. It is now nearly time to eat, and I really hope that smell-o-vision technology advances soon, because I'd love so much for you to be able to experience this as I'm experiencing it. It truly is like having edible potpourri sitting in your kitchen. It's fantastic. Using a slotted spoon or spatula, I'm going to carefully lift the now ultra-tender pieces of pork from the bottom of the cooker. I'm doing my best to avoid breaking these up too much, and it's fine if some of the cooked onions and other veggies come out with them as well. I'm removing these to a foil-lined baking sheet because while these are already tender, delicious, and bursting with flavor, believe it or not, they can be made even better with a quick turn in the oven on broil. This is going to give them some color, and color means flavor when we're talking about meat, and some additional textural complexity. It'll be great, you'll see. I'm broiling these for just about 10 minutes until I see some nice browning happening on top. The broiling time for yours may vary depending on your oven and your pork's proximity to the heating element, so as always, keep a watchful eye on it. Back on the other side of the kitchen, we have all this incredible flavor sitting in our slow cooker. So let's put that to its highest and best use. A delicious and intensely flavored hot sour sauce for our pork. Pour the contents into a skillet or saucepan, chunky bits and all. And we're going to bring that up to medium-low heat and let it simmer for a bit so it reduces. Not nearly as much as the pan sauce we made for our chops, though. We don't want it that thick. I'm doing a quick check here to make sure I didn't miss any big chunks of pork. No, we're good. I'm going to let this reduce and thicken just a bit here, but I'm also taking this time as an opportunity to taste and adjust my flavors as needed. This is excellent. The heat is good. Personally, I'd take it a little spicier, but I'm sharing this with the family who like it just a little milder than me, so I'll leave it here for now. And it's a little more hot than sour right now, so I'm going to squeeze in the juice of half of an additional lime, and let's see where we are. That's perfect. I'm now going to strain this to remove the components that we had in there to add some flavor, but that we don't necessarily want to take a big bite of later. The kombu, the bok choy stems, etc. I'm pressing this into a strainer to extract the liquid into the pot below. And some of that softly cooked vegetable matter is probably going to squeeze out of the bottom holes a little bit. Scrape that off the bottom of your strainer into the pot as well. That adds even more flavor, and it's going to make the finished sauce just a little thicker and more cohesive. I'm going to leave that on medium heat and just let it roll for a couple minutes, tasting again. Now would be the time right at the end when you'd want to adjust the saltiness with a little additional soy sauce or maybe some fish sauce. But I think this is right where I want it. Hot sour sauce, done. Our country ribs have now been broiling for about 12 minutes, and they're looking perfectly done. Yes, we've added some beautiful browning to these. You can see on the tops there is, I wouldn't quite call it a crust, but it has cooked and caramelized some of the liquids and firmed up the meat. We're going to get a nice forkful of tender pork fibers in each bite that have a firm mouthfeel, especially at one end, and are softer and juicier at the other. It's going to be fantastic. Time to plate. The country rib pieces we started with have long since fallen apart into large chunks. Let's arrange a few nice big pieces in a loose pile in the center of a fairly wide bowl or shallow plate. Now, let's ladle over some of that incredible hot and sour sauce. And thus, the island nation of Porktopia was founded. This tiny, unassuming country that rose to greatness as one of the world's chief exporters of flavor. You'll recall that earlier I decided I was going to take it easy on the spiciness of the sauce to make this meal enjoyable for a wider audience. Now I'm going to turn that up a little bit for me with some thin slices of Vietnamese red chili that brings the heat in spades, but also adds a gorgeous pop of red coloring. Speaking of color, so far this is mainly red, brown, and orange, so let's garnish with some hand-torn leaves of basil. Thai basil if you can get it, otherwise Italian basil is delicious too. Tearing and crushing the leaves up with your hands warms them slightly and it releases their natural oils, unlocking their full flavor potential. You could also use cilantro here instead of basil, that would be excellent too. Or use both, or chopped scallions, or all three, your choice. The nation of Porktopia was founded as a free country. A final drizzle of lime highlights the sour and counterbalances the heat added with the chili slices. The lime itself adds some very nice shades of green as well. Finally, another great addition of texture and colors, sesame seeds, both light and dark roasted. And that, dear viewers, is how a strong and independent nation is built.
Allegiance unto thee, bold and brown and beautiful, hot and sour and free. Hail Porktopia, abundant spicy grace, bids every knife and fork and spoon convey you to our face. Porktopia, Porktopia.
Bold and brown and beautiful, hot and sour and free. Truer words were never written about a tender, delicious Asian-inspired pork entree. Stay with Kettle and Bones for many, many more ways to prepare fresh, simple, healthy, flavorful, low-carb and keto-friendly dishes. Next, in the third installment of our Whole Pork Loin series, we'll be using that thick, juicy center cut to once again craft a beautiful and delicious meal. But for now, just enjoy your hot and sour country ribs.